Everyone, welcome back to the English Poems. Today we are going to discuss The Trees by Adrienne Rich. Adrienne Rich was an American poet, essayist, and feminist. She was born on 16th May 1929, Maryland, USA. She was called one of the most widely read and influential poets of the second half of 20th century. She had brought the oppression of women to the forefront of poetic discourse. She criticized rigid forms of feminist identities. Her notable work is Diving into the Wreck. It is a collection of poems which is written between the years 1971-72 and it is first published in the year 1973. Her writings has brought her so many awards. Let me include some awards here. She has won the National Book Award in the year 1974 and Bollingen Prize in 2003, Griffin Poetry Prize in 2010, and she had died on 27th March 2012. She was aged 82 then in California, USA. Now, let's see the short introduction to the poem The Trees. The Trees is a short symbolic poem depicts the movement of trees that are indoors so far, now moving to the forest in order to get freedom. This poem deals with the conflict between man and nature, and as a result, humans caused a lot of harm to nature in spite of using all the natural resources. It shows that men have forgotten the importance of nature. Here, the trees are an extended metaphor for women. I have already told you it is a symbolic poem. So, Adrienne Rich symbolizes women through trees. So, here the trees are an extended metaphor for women. The women have rested and they are healed and ready for their primary purpose. Their primary purpose is to renew the empty forest of mankind. The trees is actually the voice of the poet who engaged in some activities and she is sensing some intuitions. This is unusual to the conventions of a nature poem. The poet tells us that how trees want to break out of the bondage of man-made things and reunite with their natural surroundings. The message is that the forests have disappeared. So people have planted trees in their homes. Trees are revolting as they have lost their natural usefulness, their natural habitat. No bird nests in them, nor do they spread their shadows to the tired people. Now, dear students, let's see the explanation stanza wise. Now, stanza 1, listen carefully. The trees inside are moving out into the forest that was empty all these days, where no bird could sit, no insect hide, no sun bury its feet in shadow. The forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. The poet observes that the trees in his house are moving outside into the forest which has been empty for a long time. It is important to understand that the trees are not actually moving, but it has been used as an imagery by the poet to show the destroyed forests and the false nature that humans have tried to keep in their houses. Since the forest outside was empty, no birds could sit on the branches of trees. No insects could hide in the trees, and sunlight could never disappear under the shadows of the trees. The speaker feels that the empty forest will be full of trees by the next morning. Now, let's move on to the second stanza. All night the roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. The leaves strain toward the glass, small twigs stiff with exertion, long cramped buffs shuffling under the roof, like newly discharged patients half-dazed moving to the clinic doors. It seems like the trees work silently in the night in order to complete their mission of getting free from the boundaries of the house. Therefore, they work all night to free themselves through the cracks of the veranda floor. The leaves of the trees try very hard to put a lot of pressure on the glass so that they could break it. The small twigs have become very hard due to applying so much pressure to free themselves. The large branches of the trees try to move slowly from there and look like newly discharged patient from a hospital who became half shocked on coming to the outside world. Now, listen to the third stanza. I sit inside, doors open to the veranda, writing long letters in which I scarcely mention the departure of the forest from the house. The night is fresh, the whole moon shines in a sky still open. The smell of leaves and lichen still reaches like a voice into the rooms. Actually, the poet sits in her house writing long letters, and the doors of her house were opening to the veranda. She mentions in her letter about the trees that are moving out to the empty forest. It is a full moon night where the moon is shining in the open sky and the night is very fresh. The poet smells the leaves and lichens coming from the trees that reach her like a voice. Now, last stanza. My head is full of whispers, which tomorrow will be silent. Listen, the glass is breaking. The trees are stumbling forward into the night. Winds rush to meet them. The moon is broken like a mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. Dear students, the poet listens to the sound coming from the leaves and lichens of the trees. These sounds will not be there in the morning, as the trees will move out to the forest in the night and will not be in the house by morning. Now, the poet can hear the glass breaking due to the efforts of the twigs. The trees hurry outside, stumbling on each other. As the trees go in the open, it seems like the wind is moving fast towards them to meet them, to greet them. The trees are so tall that they have the moon into pieces like a broken mirror on its head, maybe the tall trees on their head. The moon sits like the crowns on the head of the tall oak tree. Now, with this, the explanation of stanzas is over, students. As I have told you already, the trees is a short symbolic poem focusing on the movement of the trees that are initially indoors but seeking to escape to freedom in the forest. The trees represent nature, but also the nature of being womanhood in particular. What makes this poem unusual is the speaker's attitude towards the trees. In the first two stanzas, there is a definite attachment as the speaker objectively describes the escape of the trees to their new environment. In the last two stanzas, the speaker, now a first person, you can see I, the word I, seems to want to ignore this profound shifting of the trees, but paradoxically, by mentioning her own aloofness, brings the whole situation into sharper focus. Students, the use of simile is clear as the branches of the trees are seen like newly discharged patients, heading for the clinic doors. This portrayal of the trees as people in need of medical help means the poem cannot be taken literally. The trees then is an extended metaphor. Yes, we have discussed at the beginning, the trees are indeed people, especially females. Females who are in need of healing or having been healed are now ready for their true purpose, renewing the empty forest. Here the empty forest is mentioned or refers men. Thank you, students. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe and post your comments. Your comments are most valid. And let's meet on the next video. Bye. Thank you.